my paper is about the influence of lobbies on politics and how digital governance and open data can help us shed light on the practices of lobbies, and by letting us explore how the influence of lobbies influence actually votes in the parliaments, and we make a use case with the Swiss parliaments. Lobbies, we know that they are organized movements that defend the interests of specific groups of people or corporations. There are lobbies in all countries in the world, and there are recent studies that show that the number of ties between lobbies and MPs are actually on the rise. So lobbies are trying to have or to gain even more influence on policy making, and of course it's not a process that is completely transparent to the general public, which explains the fact that in many countries the law often requests that the ties to lobbies are disclosed. There's usually a public register where members of parliament have to disclose their ties to lobbies, and this register that can be read by the public. The law is different in all countries. In particular, in Switzerland, for example, there's no verification that this register is actually complete. So the members of parliament are asked to disclose their ties, but no one actually checks whether they disclose all their ties or they happen to forget something. But there are other groups that are also interested in watching the ties between politicians and lobbies, and in particular in Switzerland there's a group called Lobby&Votes, which is a group of journalists that maintains a register of interest ties, which is a bit more complete than the official register that's maintained by the parliament. So the transparency issue remain, and of course when politicians want to hide something, then the question is, why do they want to hide it, and how does it influence the policy making process? So this is the context in which this work is actually placed. In the context, there's also open data. Open data has been a reality now for almost 10 years. There's a rising trend still towards opening government data, and especially in many parliaments in the world, vote data is actually opened, and also these interest ties registers that I was speaking about. So the fact that these two kinds of data sets are open opens new possibilities for analyzing how the interest ties can influence the votes of members of parliament. So of course, I describe in the paper that the influence of lobbies cannot be witnessed only by votes, but recent studies in political science show that parliamentary work has actually increased. There is an increasing number of amendments that are done during the parliament sessions, which means that even when the plenary sessions are actually meeting, there's still the possibility that the lobby influence can be seen. So we take as an hypothesis for our work that the vote behavior of members of parliaments can be a proxy of the influence of lobbies on policy making. And to explore this hypothesis, we develop a platform that uses the two datasets described before, the vote dataset and the interest ties dataset, and we do visualization that's meant for exploring the combination of those datasets. The state of the art, I won't cover it here. It's described in the paper. There are two parts. The visualization of interest ties first. There are many examples in other countries in Europe and in the US of visualizations of interest ties, and also studies in political science which analyze the voting behavior of MPs at an aggregate level and then make the link to lobbies. The difference, our work is different from the existing work in the fact that it combines votes and lobbies, and it allows for precise exploration, not just at an aggregate level, taking all votes of a full legislature, but taking individual votes and then seeing for each individual vote how the voting behavior of MPs was with respect to their lobbies. Do a quick tour of the Lobby&Votes platform. Here's the main page with a description of what the website contains and a small disclaimer. We first go to the lobbies page, which displays an overview of how many members each lobby has. This is this circle pack visualization. So the big circle is all the lobbies. The white circles are actually the topics. This is all lobbies related to environment. This is santé, which is health. And then you have the details of the lobbies, medicine here, pharma, patients, health, hospitals, etc., etc. And then you can have a table here where you can go and look for a specific lobby. This is environment and nature, and you see all the members of the lobbies with the political group they belong to, political parties, and you can show more entries and order by all the different things and search, for example, for specific members. This is Adel Toranguma, which is a member of the Green Party, for example. So that's the main page displaying all the different lobbies, but what's more interesting is the link between these lobbies and the votes. And here we can go on that page and select a specific vote. Let's select, for example, the Paris Agreement on climate, and there were 3 votes on that topic. So let's say we take the main vote on this Paris Agreement. Interestingly, if I'll change the website now, here is the website of the Swiss Parliament, so the official website, and there are also visualizations of the vote behavior of MPs. Here we have the same vote, the Paris Agreement on climate. You see the overall result. The agreement was accepted by the parliament. And here you see how the different members voted according to their political party. As you can see, there's pretty clear difference between the left and center parties and the right party here, which is the Nationalist Party in what's green, dark green color, which mainly refused the text. But you can see that there are also other people in other parties that refuse the text. Let's go back to the Lobby&Votes platform. Interestingly, maybe on that page you can actually download the result of the vote as a CSV file, which is so the open data, and the CSV file looks like this. You have a CSV file with all the details of the vote. Here you have all the members of the councillors, and you see which voted yes or no on their abstained or something else. So let's go back to Lobby&Votes and have a look at this Paris Agreement vote. You can see the result. You can note that there's a slight difference in the percentages here because the way we compute the percentage is a bit different than the official way of computing, but it doesn't make a big difference. And then you can see below this general result which lobbies voted yes and which lobbies voted mainly no. And if you look at, for example, here you have the banks lobbies. The banks lobbies mainly refuse the Paris Agreement, and just below you have the gas and petrol oil industries, which also mainly refuse the Paris Agreement, which doesn't come as a big surprise. And if you look on the other sides, on the lobbies who voted yes, you will find lobbies like, for example, here we have the lobby that we looked at before, environment and nature. They mainly accepted the Paris Agreement. So this gives an overview for specific votes of the voting behavior of the members of parliaments which belong to a specific lobby. Now we'll have a look at another interesting page, which is maybe first let's look at the result of a specific lobby like environnement en général, or the one we looked at before, environment and nature. You can see that this lobby mainly accepted the Paris Agreement, and you can see the details of the members of the lobby who accepted or refused the vote. It might seem surprising that some members refused the Paris Agreement despite being members of the environment lobby. So let's look at some of them in more closely. We have here Andrea Martina Geisbühler, who refused. if we go to the Lobby Watch platform and have a look at the lobbies that Andrea Martina Geisbühler belongs to, we can see that she actually belongs to 3 environment interest groups, lobbies, but she also belongs to the far-right party I was talking about before. And if you remember, that far-right party mostly refused the object. So for the case of Andrea Martina Geisbühler, it seems the party had more influence than the lobbies in that particular vote. Now, if we look at Adèle Toranguma, I told you before she was one of the prominent members of the Green Party. On Lobby Watch, you can see that she's also a member of this Environment and Nature lobby, and she's also a member of the Green Party, and obviously she agreed to the Paris Agreement. Now, let's have a look at another page, which is the votes that the members of parliament have made in agreement or in disagreement with their lobby or the lobbies. Here you can see the total. So in total, 70% of the votes were done in agreement with the lobbies, and 30% of the votes were done in disagreement with the vote of the lobbies. So what is the vote of the lobby? It's the vote of the majority of the lobby. We decide that the majority of the lobby makes the vote of the lobby, and if individual members agreed with that majority, then we say that they agree with the lobby, and otherwise we say that they disagree. So the overall number is maybe not very interesting. What's more interesting is to see for each member of parliament whether they agreed or disagreed with the lobbies. And you can see that there are statistics for each of them, and we'll look at one of them in particular. Here it's Roger Koppel. So we see that Roger Koppel belongs to 2 lobbies, and he had a voting behavior that was mostly against or in disagreement with its lobbies, which might come as a surprise. Here on the table you have all the details of the votes if you want to go in greater details in all the votes to understand what happened there, and maybe an explanation can come from going back on the Lobby Watch platform and looking at that particular person. So he's a member of the Right Nationalist Party, UDC, and he's a member of the media lobby, but most of the members of the media lobby are actually more on the left side of the political spectrum. So that explains why he disagrees mostly with the other members of the media lobby. And cultural institutions, so it's the music lobby that we see here on the Lobby&Votes platform, the music lobby here. Also, we can imagine that most of the members of this lobby are mostly left-wing on the political spectrum, which explains why his votes, which are probably mostly in agreement with his political party, are in disagreement with his lobbies. And if we look indeed at his voting behavior compared to the majority of his party, here if we look at Roger Koppel, we see that Roger Koppel actually agrees in 88% of his votes with his political party. So a quick analysis and exploration for this particular person lets us see that he is more influenced by his political party than influenced by the lobbies he belongs to. We evaluated informally the platform with 7 people, a politician, journalists, and an editor-in-chief from a newspaper. The evaluation was done in 3 parts. There were some tasks that were asked to the people to measure the effectiveness of the platform. There was a small questionnaire and a semi-structured interview. I'll present that briefly. So for the tasks, while you can look at the paper, all the participants succeeded in the 3 tasks. The questionnaire data, the usability was rated as rather good, 7.4 on a scale of 10, and the usefulness of the publication of the data, so rather the idea of linking data with votes, was also rather good, 6.8. Now, more interestingly, the result of the semi-structured interview, we had 3 questions. First was, does the publication of this information make the parliament more transparent? All the participants replied yes to the question. For a quote, for example, it shows whether MPs defend the interests of their party or lobbies, and everybody can see it. So it really improves the transparency of the work of MP in the opinion of our participants. Second question was, does the publication of that data increase the accountability of MPs? 4 people replied yes, because it facilitates the explanation of voting behavior and because MPs will feel more surveilled. 3 replied no, because they think that the information is already public and that citizens are mostly interested in personal values more than their voting behavior. Another person thought that some information was still missing, like the coherence of votes on a specific topic, to have a better view of the voting behavior of MPs. And the last question was, will the publication of the data impact the trust of citizens in their representative? The majority of our participants said yes, because they will understand who votes what and who is influenced by whom. And anybody can understand who the MPs really defend. And 2 political journalists, maybe there's a bias because they were political journalists, said that the interest ties are already known and that people trust speeches more than acts. Overall, on this evaluation, we were comforted in the fact that this platform is useful and can have a real impact. Of course, again, it would need to be improved with better data and also better visualization, but there's a real potential for this kind of visualization to make an impact in the trust of citizens in politics. There are some limitations that we mentioned in the paper. The votes should be classified by topics, and also the position of each lobby on the specific topics should be also known, so which would allow us to filter out uninteresting lobbies on specific votes, for example, and then have votes that are relevant to a specific topic that are analyzed together, and so on and so forth. As such, what we have done is a bit too rough, I would say, and we would need to have some filtering on that part. And of course, a limitation of very fundamental limitation in that by focusing on the votes, we don't see the influence of lobbies elsewhere. For example, in pre-parliamentary work, in commissions, which are held usually behind closed doors. Of course, we cannot see the influence of lobbies there. There are some research perspectives. For example, identifying trends that go beyond vote-per-vote analysis, so see which lobby has a more influence on some specific topic and not just on some specific vote. Classification of votes by topic could be done maybe also with automatic means by people interested in data science, so that's another interesting research perspective. In conclusion, we have shown that visualizing the data of votes and lobbies can help us shed light on the practices of lobbies in parliamentary work. And of course, these are elements that raise concerns about the transparency and the accountability of MPs. And I would argue that this kind of tools is needed to provide more transparency and accountability in all national parliaments and provide a view of what the politicians are doing for the general public. So I'm eager to see similar initiatives in other countries. Thank you very much.